If your compost pile smells like rotten eggs, sour garbage, or even ammonia, it's trying to tell you something, and it's not good. That stench isn't just unpleasant, it's a clear signal that your composting process has stalled, gone anaerobic, or is about to attract flies, rats, and worse. It can be frustrating. You're doing everything you thought you should, kitchen scraps, garden clippings, even turning the pile now and then, but the stink just won't quit. Here's the thing, compost shouldn't smell bad. In fact, a healthy pile smells earthy, rich, and even sweet like a forest floor after rain. If you're holding your nose every time you walk past your bin or tumbler, you're not alone. But the fix is easier than you think. In this guide, we'll walk through exactly why compost goes foul, what signs to look for before it gets out of control, and the step-by-step strategies to fix it fast. Whether you're just starting your first pile or you've been composting for years, understanding the real root of the smell will not only restore your compost, it'll speed it up, make it more nutritious, and bring those beneficial microbes back into balance. Let's dig in. Why compost smells in the first place? When compost stinks, it usually means one thing: nature's balance has been tipped too far in one direction. A healthy compost pile is teeming with life. Bacteria, fungi, worms, and insects all working together in a carefully tuned dance of decomposition. But when that balance breaks, things get messy, literally. So the most common cause is anaerobic decomposition. That basically happens when your pile just doesn't have enough oxygen flowing through it. Instead of clean, efficient breakdown by aerobic microbes, you get the rise of anaerobic bacteria, the kind that thrive in oxygen-poor environments like swamps and sewage tanks. These bacteria actually produce gases like hydrogen sulfide, which, well, smells like rotten eggs, and butyric acid, which kinda smells like vomit or rancid butter. Not exactly the scent of a healthy garden, right? Anaerobic conditions usually develop when the pile is either too wet, too compacted, or, layered in a way that traps moisture without any airflow. If your compost feels slimy, heavy, or dense like a soaked sponge, you're likely in the anaerobic danger zone. Excess moisture, the silent smell maker. Rain, green waste, and juicy kitchen scraps can all turn your compost soggy if you don't balance them out with absorbent, dry materials. Moisture is necessary to support microbial life, but too much of it drowns the oxygen. A pile that's constantly soggy turns into a sealed fermentation chamber instead of a healthy compost system. You can tell moisture is the problem when you see puddles forming around your compost bin, or when the material clumps together like wet spinach. If it smells sour, that's your second clue. The green and brown imbalance. One of the most misunderstood concepts in composting is the carbon to nitrogen ratio, also known as the green to brown balance. So, greens are nitrogen-rich materials, things like fresh grass clippings, vegetable peels, coffee grounds, and food scraps. On the other hand, browns are carbon-rich materials like dried leaves, shredded newspaper straw sawdust, or even cardboard. When you overload the pile with greens, you actually overwhelm the microbes with too much nitrogen. This can lead to slimy textures, rapid anaerobic growth, and, you guessed it, a strong ammonia-like odor. It's, well, the same smell you'd get from a dirty cat litter box or a wet barn floor. Too many browns, on the other hand, won't stink, but your pile won't break down efficiently either. It'll just sit there cold and dormant. The trick is to find that perfect balance, usually around 2 to 3 parts brown for every 1 part green by volume. Not by weight. Wet materials are heavier, so volume is key. Improper materials that rot instead of compost. Let's be blunt, meat, bones, fat, oils, dairy, and cooked food don't belong in your standard compost pile. They don't just attract raccoons and rodents, they rot. Unlike fruit and veggie scraps, these materials decompose slowly and create powerful odors during the process. Their breakdown products include fatty acids and putrid gases that have no place in a healthy oxygenated pile. Even things that seem harmless, like avocado skins or citrus rinds, can contribute to a stinky pile if added in large quantities without the right browns to balance them. And while weeds can be composted, if they've gone to seed or are invasive, they might re-sprout in your finished compost. Moldy bread, soggy pasta, or leftovers from your plate? Honestly, those are best left out unless you're hot composting or using a sealed bokashi system. Fixing a smelly compost pile, the fastest way back to balance. So, the first step to solving your compost odor problem is to figure out the dominant cause, whether it's too wet, too green, not enough airflow, or maybe just the wrong ingredients. Once you know where things went sideways, you can actually start correcting it right away. If your pile is soggy or compacted, go ahead and aerate it by turning it thoroughly. This reintroduces oxygen and helps break up any clumps, and if you've got a tumbler, just rotate it several times daily for about a week. For bins and open piles, you'll want to use a garden fork or a compost aerator to fluff the material and expose those trapped gases. Next, add browns, and honestly don't hold back. Shredded cardboard, crumpled paper, dead leaves, pine needles, sawdust that's untreated, or straw all soak up excess moisture and introduce structure to help promote airflow. Layer them in generously like you're blotting a spill. So, keep an eye on drainage. If your compost bin is sitting in a depression or doesn't drain well, you might want to elevate it slightly or add coarse materials like sticks or bark chips at the bottom to improve water flow. Finally, check your inputs. Remove or bury any suspicious items, meat scraps, oily leftovers, or large dairy chunks. If your compost has been attracting pests along with bad smells, this step is essential. You definitely don't want your bin becoming a buffet for rats or raccoons. So, how can you prevent smelly compost in the future? Let's talk about some practical steps you can take to keep things fresh and healthy. Once your pile is back in balance, it's time to future-proof it. Start thinking of composting like baking bread. You're managing ingredients, moisture, and airflow. Seriously, it's all about finding that sweet spot. You'll want to monitor your green to brown ratio more carefully. A good rule of thumb is to always cover fresh food scraps with a layer of browns. Trust me, this simple habit can make a big difference. That way you trap smells, wick away moisture, and feed your microbes evenly. Chop large scraps into smaller pieces before tossing them in. This speeds up decomposition and reduces the risk of anaerobic pockets forming. Mix your pile often, at least every week if you're using an open system. And keep it moist like a wrung-out sponge, not soaked like a dripping towel. And keep your materials diverse. A pile built from only one or two inputs, like all grass or all leaves, will always struggle. So, mix it up. Give your microbes a buffet. They'll reward you with rich, dark compost that smells like forest soil, and never like garbage. Closing thoughts. Compost should smell like life, not decay. Composting is, honestly, a beautiful process when done right. It's nature's recycling system turning waste into life. But when something's off, like when the pile reeks or turns into sludge, it can be pretty disheartening. The good news is, it's always fixable. With a little know-how and a few tweaks, even the smelliest compost pile can bounce back and transform into the black gold your garden craves. So if you're battling that foul stench, don't give up. You're just one turn, one dry layer, or one smart input away from getting it back on track. Compost is forgiving when we understand its signals, and smell is one of its loudest. If this guide helped you rescue your compost, hit that subscribe button and share this video with a fellow gardener who might be struggling with the same stink. At Hydro Haven, we're all about growing smarter, not harder. And sometimes the best garden fix starts with your nose. Let's keep growing.